So, what if I told you that the biggest thing holding you back from a meaningful life isn't failure, but comfort? We're about to break down Matthew McConaughey's incredible blueprint for building a life of purpose, and it all starts with this one simple problem he thinks is messing with all of us.
And there it is. That's the heart of the issue. McConaughey believes that the very thing we're all programmed to chase, comfort, is actually a trap. Yeah, it's a short-term friend. It feels good. It feels safe. But in the long run, it's quietly destroying our potential. So if the first step is knowing your enemy, then this is the big question, right? How do you get out of that trap and intentionally build a life that really matters? Well, McConaughey doesn't just leave you hanging. He's got a whole framework. And it all starts with the intense, tough love foundation he got as a kid. To really get his philosophy, you have to understand where he came from. His childhood wasn't about gentle nudges and participation trophies. Oh no. It was about forging resilience through a set of super strict, absolutely non-negotiable rules. Now this is fascinating. It wasn't just about punishment. It was about reprogramming his brain. By making negative words like I can't or I hate lead to a real consequence, his parents created this powerful link in his mind. The opposite of those things, truth, love, getting it done, that's where the pleasure is. It's a pretty hardcore way to build your core values. And here's where it gets really interesting, this brilliant paradox in his upbringing. His mom would pump his ego up to the sky, telling him to walk into a room like he owned the whole place. But the second he brought that ego home, he was immediately put back in his place. It was this constant cycle. Build unshakable confidence, then demand total humility. This intensity was everywhere. Sleeping in wasn't just lazy, it was practically a sin. If the sun was up, you were out there hustling. And forget about being grounded for weeks. What a waste of time. Punishment was fast, it was direct, and then it was over. The goal was to create a relentless bias for action and make you radically self-reliant. So you can see where this is all headed, right? All that tough love, that forced independence, it was all designed to build one specific thing, an appreciation for resistance. And this becomes the absolute centerpiece of his entire philosophy. We shouldn't just put up with difficulty, we need to actually go out and find it. This is such a powerful way to think about it. He sees resistance not as something trying to stop you, but as the very thing that helps you move forward. You know, like a sculptor needs the resistance of the marble to create a masterpiece, we need challenges to give our lives shape and to show us who we really are. Without something to push against, you're just floating. And here, the two paths are laid out perfectly. On one side, you have the path of comfort. That's where you play not to lose, you hope for the best, and your own unique voice just kind of disappears. The other path, the path of resistance, yeah, it's harder, for sure. But that's what forces you to evolve, gives you control over your own story, and shows the world what you're made of. And his commitment to this is almost insane. When his career took off and life got too easy, when he was surrounded by people just telling him yes all the time, he would intentionally create his own problems. He'd literally trip himself up just to feel the sting again, just to reconnect with that resistance that kept him hungry and sharp. Okay, so the philosophy makes sense. Seek out challenges. But what does that actually look like in practice? How do you apply that to your career? How do you find the right kind of resistance that actually leads to something meaningful? Well, his formula is pretty simple, really. First, you got to figure out what you're naturally good at, what's just baked into your DNA. He knew he was never going to be a pro basketball player. Second, you have to apply a ton of hustle to turn that natural talent into a legitimate skill. And third, you have to find where that skill is actually in demand out in the world. It's that perfect intersection, your ability, your hard work, and what the world actually needs. But in the end, it really all boils down to radical ownership. No more excuses, no more safety nets. It's about you putting your hands on the steering wheel of your own life, looking yourself in the mirror, and taking total responsibility for building the person you want to become. So this foundation of tough love and this commitment to resistance, it all points toward a lifelong pursuit. It's not about reaching some final destination and then you're done. No, it's all about the chase itself. And this isn't some new idea for him. Look at this list of life goals he actually wrote down back in 1992. It's such a great mix. You've got these concrete goals, these destinations, like win an Oscar and become a father. But right next to them, you have these infinite pursuits, chase my best self, and just keep living. Those are his North Stars, the things you can chase forever.
This might be the most powerful insight into how he thinks. I mean, how can an Oscar winner look at every single performance and think it's kind of a failure? It's not because the movies were bad. It's because the version he was chasing in his own head was, in his words, divine. It was perfect. And that gap, that space between the real and the ideal that you can never close, that's his ultimate fuel.
And this really just sums it all up, doesn't it? Aim for perfection, even though you know you'll never quite get there. The real value isn't in hitting the impossible target. The value is in who you become and what you build while you're trying. The pursuit of an A will always get you further than settling for a C.
So what do we get when we put it all together? You take that foundation of real tough love, you add that fierce commitment to seeking out resistance, and you aim all of it at some impossible ideal. What you end up with is more than a philosophy. It's a real practical blueprint for how to, well, just keep living. So that leaves all of us with one final and I think really important thought. If comfort is the enemy and resistance is what gives our life its shape, then the question isn't if you'll face challenges. The question is, which ones will you choose? What resistance will you actively seek out to build the person you really want to be?